I have seen the torch of freedom pass from hand to yearning hand, and the vision of our fathers spread hope throughout this land, as the dream some fought and died for in my heart becomes my own. I will strive to keep her promise, America, my home. America, America, may God bless America, and freedom reign across America, my home. From the shorelines to the prairies, to the cities great and small, we have reaped the fruits of justice and liberty for all.
So with deep appreciation for the blessings of freedom that we know in this wonderful land of ours, I'm Dr. George Simon, welcoming you to another edition of Character Matters. This is the program where we talk about what I consider to be the defining issue of our time, the character crisis that we face, and that affects so many aspects of our lives, every aspect of our lives, in fact, from our individual relationships to our most intimate personal relationships, our partnerships, our family relations, our community relations, our overall social relations, our business affairs, our politics, governmental affairs, even our international affairs. Every aspect of our lives is affected by the character issue. And that's why I've spent a professional lifetime researching and dealing with the issue and helping empower folks who have been in toxic relationships, and also helping those individuals of truly impaired character build a better life for themselves and for others. And writing and speaking about the same issues. Writing in my 4 books, In Sheep's Clothing, Understanding and Dealing with Manipulative People, the international bestseller, most recently published in the ancient Chinese language, in the old Chinese characters, and doing quite well, as a matter of fact, from what I understand. And also my book, Character Disturbance, The Phenomenon of Our Age, the more in-depth expose of all the kinds of character disturbances you're likely to encounter in your life, and how to understand and deal with them, and most especially, what to look for in the way of help when you're seeking professional guidance. And then my book, The Judas Syndrome, specifically tailored toward the Christian faith community, about how genuine faith can truly transform a life. And then my book, How Did We End Up Here, with Dr. Kathy Armistead, the guide to surviving and thriving in this character-disturbed world of ours. those individuals who are asking themselves the question, how they got into the position that they got into. How did we get here as a society? What can I do to navigate my way through this character-disturbed mess that I find myself in? And also writing on my blog weekly at manipulative-people.com or drgeorgesimon.com. That's drgeorgesimon.com. And coming to you weekly on this broadcast, Character Matters, where we talk about this issue and related issues. And if you want to join the conversation tonight, you can, because we are live on May the 20th, 2018. This is a live broadcast tonight, and I can take your calls at 501-258-8326. That's 501-258-8326. Happy to take your call. If you have a question, just a comment, maybe you have a story you want to share, I'm happy to take your call at 501-258-8326. Well, a number of things to a little bit of bits of business to take care of before we launch into the main thing I wanted to talk about tonight, which is to expand upon the most recent post on my blog at manipulative-people.com and drgeorgesimon.com. I want to talk about the article just posted this past Friday, and I want to also, however, before that, say a little bit about next week's program, which will not be live. It will feature a rebroadcast of an earlier program. It will be one of the programs, one of the prior Memorial Day programs, in which the song that you hear usher in the program and close the program will be featured many times in its entirety, so that if you wish, you can make an MP3 recording or some other kind of recording, a digital recording. Song is copyrighted, so you do not have permission without my permission to distribute the piece, but I do want you to enjoy it, and I do want you to particularly be affected by the message in the song. And if you are of a mind to be one of the folks helping carry the message, to join the chorus of performers all across the country who sing America My Home at patriotic events and other types of events across the country. So next week at this time, I will not be with you live. You'll be treated to a rebroadcast of an earlier program that also aired on a Memorial Day weekend, and it will feature multiple airings of America My Home, the song that you hear at the beginning and close of this program. It will feature the song in its entirety several times during the program. So I invite you to tune in. There'll still be great information, as always, on the program, but I will not be able to take your phone calls as I can today. As I mentioned, we are live tonight, May 20th, 2018. I always announce the date so that there's no confusion if you should ever have to be treated to a rebroadcast. This is the date we are live, and so I can take your calls, whether you want to ask a question or make a comment or share a story. I can take your call at 501-258-8326. Well, I mentioned that I wanted to talk about the post that I made on Friday, this past Friday on my blog at manipulative-people.com or drgeorgesimon.com, drgeorgesimon.com. I posted an article on the narcissistic spectrum, the narcissism spectrum. And the reason I wanted to talk about this tonight is because we are coming to realize that so many mental conditions, so many behavioral conditions, so many conditions that we have labeled disorders in the past as mental health professionals. So many of these conditions we now realize exist along a spectrum. We have realized this big time with the autistic spectrum disorders. And what we realize, we have always had folks who were not fully autistic, who did not have the severe form of autism, where they were, where the person was so into their own world that they could not relate externally very well, and external stimuli of various types seemed to overwhelm the person. So we've always known. Well, we've always recognized certain individuals who seem to have some degree of difficulty interacting well with the social world. But what we didn't realize is that these individuals were on a spectrum, an autistic spectrum, where they didn't necessarily have the full-blown, obvious, severe form of autism that really is pretty much a no-brainer for a clinician to diagnose, but nonetheless had some impairment and along quite a vast continuum. Some impairment in their ability to function well socially. And up until recently, we thought there were primarily two categories of spectrum disorder: full-blown autism and a category that we had termed Asperger's disorder. And the most recent research and most recent observation has revealed that, in fact, Asperger's disorder, or the clustering of symptoms that looks like Asperger's, really is just another manifestation of a condition along a very vast spectrum. And I can remember very, very early on in my clinical training coming across many young people in one of the premier clinics that I was working in who were just so hard to categorize, so hard to apply a label to with the existing labels that we had at the time. It was clear, given the nature of their social functioning difficulty and some language oddities, some interpersonal relating oddities, even sometimes some learning quirks. It was clear that there was something not quite usual about these individuals. But it wasn't fair to diagnose them as autistic. It wasn't even fair to diagnose them as having what we were calling Asperger's syndrome. And if we'd only realized how vast the spectrum of autism is, we would have done much better in intervening with these youngsters because we could have afforded them the kinds of interventions that we know now work so well when they're taken advantage of early on. You know, even individuals who are fairly far along on the autistic spectrum these days can learn to function quite adaptively if they get very early intervention with highly specialized therapies. And so looking back, I think about how many young folks really didn't have the benefit of the knowledge that we have today and the techniques that we have available today. That would have made all the difference in the world, I think, in how they were able to cope with life and how they were able to relate to others. So we kind of missed the boat there, but, you know, the behavioral sciences are all evolving. We learn new things every day. I'm sure that 20 years from now, we're going to look back on some of our diagnostic formulations today and some of the ideas that we had. And we would just we'll just roll our eyes at ourselves and say, what the heck were we thinking? You know, it was not that long ago. Really, I was still in formal training in graduate studies when there was still an active theory that had some credence. It didn't have as much credence as it did years prior, but it still had some credence even when I was in my graduate studies, that autism had its origins in some failure to bond with primary caretakers. I see we have a call coming in. I'm going to go ahead and take it. Hello, and welcome to Character Matters.
Hi, Dr. Simon. Thanks for taking my call.
Oh, you're welcome.
I called in about 6 weeks ago, so early April, about we spoke about codependency and that I was not, in fact, dealing with codependency, but emotional dependency on a roommate issue I had. And shortly after, I received notice from my landlord that me and my two roommates will need to leave. And at first I felt, panic, but it also felt like a weight had lifted off of my shoulders. I was like, wow, I don't have to deal with this. But, I was a little frustrated with myself that it took, again, someone else's decision to make a change in my life. I did refer to your books and read about emotional dependency more, and I still feel a little bit overwhelmed with understanding it and how I got here. A little bit of more background about me is that I was told that my mom is quite self-centered. I don't. No professional has seen her, so I don't want to throw around the label. But basically, it's been asserted that my background, my relationship with her, and how she treated me, is why I am where I am now. And I'm just still trying to make sense of it all. I didn't mention this when I first called in, but part of the reason why I didn't want to go through the hassle of finding another place is that I recently was diagnosed with a rare health condition, and it's been like a second job finding treatment and making all these decisions. So I just felt like, you know, finding a new place to live would be another challenge, another huge set of decisions. And I felt that I couldn't handle it. And then I actually am handling it, though. I'm still, you know, it did take a toll on me. But I feel like I didn't move, and I was trying to make my roommate change because I just felt like I couldn't handle one more thing, like I'd fall apart or something. But I actually learned a lot, and I feel like, hey, I can take care of myself, but I still do feel it. That was the reason why I was trying to go about getting her to change, getting her to clean up after her pets, you know, and all of that, instead of hunting, because the market has changed significantly, and it took me like weeks to find a place, and I lucked out. I got help, and I'm in a much better place.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm curious about one thing. When you made all those different choices, and when you began to feel like you could do this, and you did do those things that enabled you to function more independently, were you recognizing that, and were you giving yourself that internal kind of affirmation, that kind of atta girl internally when you were making those choices?
I was. When I saw everything come together and my role in it, especially with reaching out to others and getting help, like I did see, like I can do this. I thought I couldn't. I thought I really always, you know, think the worst.
Yeah.
Even though the lease was signed, I even thought, you know, well, it could all fall apart somehow. And I just have that like slant in thinking.
Well, yeah. Well, that's,
you know, like something bad will happen. The other shoe will drop. I'll fall apart. I'll get fired. Something will happen. And I thought to myself, wait a minute. You know, like I have all these fears about not making enough and all this stuff. And I thought to myself, wait, I know how to find work. I know how to market myself. And also, it's not even an issue for me right now. I have work. So I just have all these like fears.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, that part about giving yourself that internal affirmation, I can't stress it enough. So many folks actually end up doing some things that make their lives better, but they don't take the time to recognize it. They don't take the time to heighten their awareness about it, and they don't take the time to reinforce it. And we human beings, we have this incredible capacity to learn and to grow, but without that reinforcement, it's really tough for the learning to take hold. So whenever we're making those choices, whenever we're taking some steps in any new direction, and whenever we're basically empowering ourselves with our own actions, we're the ones that, you know, it's nice when somebody else recognizes that. It's nice when somebody else says, hey, I can't believe what you just did, or I can't believe that you're getting something so much together here under the stress that you've been under. It's great when that comes externally. However, it's even better when we recognize it ourselves and give ourselves that internal affirmation. That's really critical.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I always wonder, you know, what is it with me? How come I don't learn? And also, many people have been telling me, you know, wow, like I've never been under the amount of stress you've been under, and I don't know what I would do, and you're really handling it really well. And it sort of just bounces off of me, like, that's nice.
Yeah. And here's the other little secret. A lot of folks feel like you don't merit the reinforcement, you don't merit that affirmation, unless the outcome of your efforts is successful. And nothing could be further than the truth. What really merits the affirmation is your effort. It's your independent action to make a move to better your life. You can't ever really know what the outcome will be. You just have to keep plugging. And when you do, and when you give yourself the affirmation for that effort alone, it sends the message to the brain that basically you can do this, and that time will come. You never know when you will have success, in your endeavor, but you have to give yourself the reinforcement for the effort, whether or not you're successful immediately.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Great. So is it just simply just noticing it and, telling myself that whenever I get the chance?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It reinforces a sense of self-efficacy. That's what we call it, self-efficacy, a sense of personal power and ability and capability. And it also is what human merit is all about. It's all about that right exercise of your will. That's why you were given that will. And here's something else I learned in my training, and I write about it in all 4 of my books. Our wills are actually capable of being trained. It's like any other human capacity. With training and exercise, it can develop. We're given these muscles, and anybody that's ever done any kind of working out in a gym or any kind of fitness program knows that with exercise, with practice, with steadily challenging yourself with more and more and more, slightly more each time, you can develop those muscles. Well, any human capacity is capable of being developed, including the human will. And when you rightly exercise that will, when you know you've made the better call, in the face of hardship, in the face of difficulty, when you know that you've mustered the strength to make that better call, that's when you really need that affirmation and reinforcement. And believe me, that's what will strengthen your will over time.
Wow. Great. This is really, really great to know. It answers so many questions and thoughts I've had about this, like why did I just give up? Or, why did I just think I can't do this? I can't. Like, I just had these thoughts like, just that I couldn't handle it and that something awful would happen to me. That underneath all the stress I would crumble and everything would fall apart because of the stress. But I'm just wondering, what would lead someone to just give up or just try to change others instead of, taking independent action? Does it have any relationship to my upbringing and how I was treated?
Well, you know what? I'm going to answer you, that question in a funny way. Hang on one second. We have another call coming in, and I'm going to put them on hold. Hang on one second. Hello, and welcome to Character Matters.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Wendy.
Yes, Wendy, can I ask you to call back in about 2 minutes? I'm on another call right now, but I'd love to take your call, okay? So if you'll let me finish up and call back, I'd appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, are you there? Yes, are you there? Are you there?
Yes.
Okay. We need to finish up, but I wanted to give you another little tidbit here. Because you ask a question that so many people ask. They want to know, the traditional psychology always taught us to think in terms of all those formative things that caused us to do things the way we do or to cope in the ways that we've coped. To reach back into the past and look at all those things that basically shaped our learning. But here's the thing. It really doesn't matter. And the old notion that just knowing how you got that way and how you learned to cope the way you learned to cope, the old notion that just knowing how it all happened is going to be somehow the ticket to you being cured or doing things differently is just patently ludicrous. The fact is that in order to learn new ways of coping, you simply have to try them. And when you do, and you experience the success, it makes all of those things that predisposed you to do things a different way irrelevant. And in time, you'll have the insight anyway. The fact is that you'll uncover all the things, you'll gain all the awareness you need to know about what made you do things differently before. All you really have to do is start doing differently now.
Okay.
It's really that simple.
Great. Yeah, I was into analysis.
Yeah. That's the traditional thinking. And it is so totally unnecessary.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Great. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thanks for the call.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. What a great call. I talk about this at workshops all the time, and I give examples from case studies, and I give examples from real life, too. It's such a common thought to kind of reach back in the past. And if I can understand what happened to me in my childhood, or what happened in my relationships with my parents and my siblings, or what traumas I experienced as I was growing up that caused me to respond a certain way, build certain defenses, then just somehow magically things will be different. Well, no. All that's kind of well and good to have that kind of understanding, but it doesn't make for change. What really makes for change is trying something different. Sometimes just anything different. And then seeing what the result is, experiencing the difference, learning new ways, trying new things, and gaining confidence in the process. And so many times when we do that, and we reinforce ourselves for the effort, so many times it becomes clear to us eventually how we got stuck in those old patterns, what it was that we may have learned or experienced when we were younger, or what it was that maybe traumatized us in some way to hold us back. We'll come to realize that in due course. But what really matters is changing behavior and reinforcing ourselves for so doing, and strengthening our will and our resolve in the process. It makes a difference, and it builds a sense of self-mastery, self-confidence, self-efficacy. It builds proper self-esteem and self-respect. We don't need to know why. We spend an awful lot of time and an awful lot of energy wasted trying to figure those kinds of things out. And it really is truly a waste of time and energy. So it's a wonderful, I can't thank the caller enough. It was a wonderful call in many ways. And she also gave a personal testimony about how someone who struggles with a fair degree of dependency can overcome that dependency just by making some independent choices and experiencing the consequences and reinforcing herself or oneself for making those choices, for taking those actions. We don't have power necessarily over the outcome. Sometimes you do all the right things and things still don't pan out. You're not in control of all the possible outcomes. There are too many variables there. But you are in total control of how you exercise that will, and exercise is the key. And the more you exercise that will, the more you exercise it, the stronger it becomes. And the more you exercise it rightly, the more character you develop. And that's what's worthy of legitimate self-stroking, self-recognition, self-reinforcement. That's the heart and soul of merit. And boy, would this country be a different place if we were a nation full of individuals with nothing but meritorious conduct. That's the article I was writing about earlier. I sure hope the other caller wants to call back that called in during our past phone call. Needed to place her on hold. I don't have an elaborate switchboard here. We don't have the benefit of that on UCY.tv. Maybe there'll come a time when we'll have such things, but we don't have such things as we do have a producer in New York who makes sure that we're on the air and that there are no big technical glitches, but we don't have a call screener and a computerized phone answering deal that lets me know who's holding on the line and what they want to talk about and all like that. We're not that advanced in our technology here on Character Matters. So sometimes when I have more than one caller trying to get in, I have to do the old routine and just put somebody on hold, answer the call, and then have the other person call back. And that happened just momentarily, and I'm looking forward to the person that I had to ask to call back, and we'll have a conversation. Meanwhile, if you have a question you want to ask or a comment you want to make, story you'd like to share, just give us a call at 501-258-8326. That's 501-258-8326, and I'll be happy to take your call. Well, I was mentioning about the narcissism spectrum that I had written about on Friday's post, and I was talking earlier about how we've come to realize that so many conditions exist along a spectrum, and that's the way it is with narcissism. You see, we live in such a narcissistic age. We live in such a self-centered, me first, me, entitlement kind of culture. And we've been in that kind of culture for so long that many of us have a hard time outgrowing our infantile narcissism. You know, we all start out. Oh, I see we have another caller. Hello, and welcome to Character Matters.
Hi, Dr. George Simon. This is Donish.
I'm sorry, would you repeat that, please?
Can you hear me? This is Donish.
Yes, I can now hear you. Thank you.
Okay. I had a question for you regarding a person's gut feeling when dealing with a manipulator.
Uh-huh.
Could you elaborate on that and how to know when to trust a gut feeling or to, distinguishing that from just unbased suspicion?
Okay. Can you give me more of an example? And Donish, I might say there was another caller that I placed on hold and asked to call back. So if that call comes in, I might have to take it. Okay. But can you give me a little bit more information?
For example, somebody just has a bad feeling or through intuition just thinks that something's wrong but can't exactly explain it. Like if asked to give some hard examples of why this relationship, for example, is abusive or this person's trying to manipulate you, you can't really answer it, but just have a bad gut feeling. Is there merit to that?
Yeah, there usually is. I mean, that's not a great answer, I know, because it's not 100%, but there usually is. We have these feelings, these gut reactions for a reason, and there's usually something to them. We just have to sit with them and process them and say, what's this all about? Sit with our feelings for a little bit. Process them. Don't be afraid to own them. Why am I finding myself being angry here? Or why am I finding myself being afraid here? Or why am I finding myself being uncomfortable? Just analyze the situation, sit with it, trust your gut. Something is there, and whatever that something is will come to you if you trust it and process it.
Okay, that makes sense. So trusting gut doesn't necessarily mean to make a horrible judgment about somebody else, but enough to definitely evaluate and think why this feeling is there.
Absolutely. You got it.
Okay, thank you.
You're so welcome, Danish. Take care. Well, I see our callers coming in, so hello and welcome to Character Matters.
Hi, this is Wendy.
Hi, Wendy.
Hi, I called earlier.
Yes, and thank you. And I was kind of concerned that I might have to put you on hold again because we had another caller after the other one, but nonetheless, you got through, so welcome to Character Matters.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. It's a shame that, I'm a member of so many narcissistic abuse groups on Facebook, and I don't understand why your radio show isn't known, throughout the Facebook groups there. But I actually was calling just to see if you can help me in a certain situation. I am currently living with my narcissistic mother, and it's kind of hard to adjust as far as trying to maintain my own self. Just it's very hard to do that.
Yeah, and can I ask what circumstances have you living with your mother?
Well, I lost my place. I've been living with her now for 4 years, and I've been really struggling to make ends meet because of my phobias and everything that I have.
Because of your phobias?
I have certain phobias like driving.
Uh-huh.
And I work from home. So that's what I do, and it's kind of hard to.
And are you receiving treatment for your phobias?
Absolutely not. What I'm doing for that is just basically I'm taking supplementals and also doing a lot of hypnotherapy.
Mm-hmm. Hypnotherapy with yourself or with someone else?
On YouTube.
Oh.
It's a lot of different hypnotherapies that I found that would help me in certain situations. And that's how I've been really maintaining myself, but I feel like that's like a Band-Aid.
Uh-huh. Well, the treatment of anxiety disorders and phobias is one of my specialties. And I can tell you this. There are all types of interventions out there available. And frankly, among all the psychological conditions, the most reliably treated conditions that there are anxiety and phobia-related conditions. It's the only area of psychology that we can claim really high success rates. But I can tell you that you don't really need a professional to deal with the problem. Because you may not like this answer, but the cure, if you want to call it that, is relatively straightforward. And you may not like the sound of it, but here goes. What you do is you do the very thing you fear to do. You do it, and you do it often. And you reinforce yourself for doing it. Now, sometimes that has to be a very gradated approach. Sometimes that has to be a real incremental approach. However, in time, two things happen. One, you overcome the phobia. Two, you build a sense of self-mastery and self-efficacy and self-respect and self-esteem second to none. So there's two powerful benefits. Now, one thing will happen in the course of your self-training. Every now and then, that dear old phobia or some other anxiety or whatever the case may be will come back.
Mm-hmm.
Because what we know from learning theory is that no behavior is unlearned and no conditioned response is ever fully extinguished. However, over time, if in fact when these things return, you still pay it no never mind, basically, and put one foot in front of the other and do the very things you fear to do, in time, you will banish those phobias.
Yeah. I actually had a lot more phobias before. I was agoraphobia, the driving and everything. And you're right on that, because there's that one time I had horrible agoraphobia where I didn't want to go outside at all. It took me long periods of time to do what I have to do, like shopping, basic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I did say to myself, well, let me just go out there and meet people, even though I was like on edge. I was really, really on edge.
Uh-huh.
And it was rather difficult, but the first set of people I started meeting was church people, going to church events and everything like that. But I just withdraw myself as time goes by, because I feel that it's because of my failures. I go through the failures, I lose my place and everything, and it gets worse.
Yeah.
And then I move back with my mother, and then it gets even worse, because she, that's what they are. So, and then it gets even worse. It's like my brother hates me. Okay, he thinks I'm a loser, and my whole family, they treat me as a psychopath patient and everything. So, yeah, I mean, it gets worse.
Yeah. Well, along with doing the things you fear to do, along with doing the things you fear to do, the second part of effective empowerment is changing the talk. And I'm talking about the self-talk. And sometimes that's not easy, but the one thing you always have power over is what you're thinking. And even if some negative thoughts come back into your mind, you can always change them. And I like to use the KISS rule, the keep it simple, stupid rule. And that is, thoughts can only be basically of one type or another. They're either going to be secure, positive thoughts, or they're going to be insecure, negative thoughts. One or the other. And you can always change one of those insecure, negative thoughts to a positive, secure thought. For example, you can change that insecure, negative thought, my brother hates me, I'm a loser. You can change that to, I'm learning more every day. And what other people think does not determine who I am. You can change the thoughts. You don't have to even believe in the thoughts that you change to, but you do have to change the thoughts, and you have to act accordingly. And when you do, when you change the thoughts, and when you take action and do the very thing you fear to do, in time, you make yourself over. You retrain your brain. You basically erase all the old tapes, and you cut new records.
Yeah, it's hard though. I mean, I'm here, and then it's like I'm trying my best to get out of here.
Can you think of one thing in this world that is truly valuable, that doesn't require either labor or it doesn't cost something? Can you think of one thing? Can you think of anything in this life that is truly valuable that doesn't have a cost attached to it?
Love, I guess. Don't have any value to it. I mean,
the things that are the most valuable cost the most. And yes, it is hard. Yes, it does take effort. The payoff, however, is great. So that's something we have to make peace with. We have to make peace with the fact that all the most valuable things, when it comes to personal empowerment, all the most valuable things that we do come with a cost, take effort, are painful, are difficult to do. And that's why probably it's not a good idea to just dive in and tackle the biggest things first. But in time, if you're putting one foot in front of the other and you're taking action to improve the circumstances of your life, and you're doing all those things you fear to do in increasing increments and giving yourself internal reinforcement for every single right exercise of your will, in time, you'll grow.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a really, really big challenge, though. It's the side remarks, everything, it's really hard. I mean, I can be positive all day long, and then it's like, whenever I get around my family members, it's a different
You
atmosphere.
always have the power to change
And
those
I'm
thoughts.
trying to, yeah.
You always have the power to change those thoughts. Even if you have to do it a second at a time, a minute at a time, you always have the power to change those thoughts. And you also always have the power to take positive action and do something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do the very thing you feared to do. You know, like walk out the door sometime. Like walk right out the door.
Yeah, I mean, gradually I'm doing that just fine, but that was just my only dilemma, is just trying to maintain my sanity as I'm here with my mother.
Yeah.
And as I'm, that's the challenge, I try not to explode, and I separate myself most times.
Right.
And this is what I have to do. And then it seems odd when I do this when family members are here,
Yeah.
Like when I had my cousins here last month, I wanted so desperately to go inside my room and have a peace of mind. And it was all kind of shady moves here and there, you know what I'm saying? This shady tricks, as I call it.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me feel stupid or
Did you retreat? Did you retreat into your room?
No. Yeah. I mean, no, I didn't. I didn't at all. This is the thing. It's like, wow.
And
I was like almost there to screaming or something. Actually, what I did was go away. I didn't go into my room. I actually went away for a long time. I lied. I said I had to do my taxes or something because that was during tax time. But I was gone for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was crying and everything. I mean, it's awful. It's disgusting. And I hate doing that because it makes me look like I'm the bad person. What's separating myself like that?
What would you identify if you were to take one action right now that would really better your circumstances, but that you're afraid to do just yet? What would that be?
Just simply move out.
Mm-hmm. And what's keeping you from doing that?
Money.
And what's keeping you from making more money?
Well, I am an entrepreneur and currently trying my best to start my business.
What's keeping you from making more money right now?
Nothing. It's just I don't know. I just have to stick with one job, whether it's hourly or I right now I'm living off of the winnings that I won during the time when my cousins was here. We went to the casino and I won about $2,300. So I'm living off of that, and in the meantime, I'm trying to build up a business. And I mean, it's going okay right now, but I haven't made any money just yet in this almost a month. So I'm praying and hoping. I'm praying that something will go through.
Yeah.
So
you're looking.
that way I can
All right. So you're not going to like this one either, but I'm going to give it to you because I really, really feel for you in this place that you're at. But when you're looking externally, hoping for that something, for that ship to come in, whenever you're looking externally for anything, you're setting yourself up for that is the behavioral formula for depression. That expectation, when your attention is directed externally, and there is that expectation that maybe something will come, you don't have power over outcomes. You only have power over actions. And so you've taken some actions, and they haven't paid off just yet. But you need some money if you're going to live independently, and you have the power to rectify that. So where your attention needs to be is solely on the actions that you're taking. You need to leave your mother, your relatives, your brother, and everybody else out of it. This is between you and the world you live in and the choices that you're making to take good care of yourself. And when you take an action to better your circumstance, when you do the very things that you hesitate to do, and then you reinforce yourself for those choices, things are going to get a whole lot better, I promise you.
Yeah.
I hope you'll call back at some point, and we'll have this discussion again. And I also hope that you'll read some of the stuff that I've written on both the blog at manipulative-people.com and also in my books on personal empowerment. Okay?
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Simon.
Thanks for the call. Take care.
And I'm sharing your information out, too. I am.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yes. You're welcome.
Take care. Bye-bye. Well, that was a great call also. Well, we're getting down to the end here, folks, so I'm going to make sure I get a few mentions in here about some things. Once again, next weekend being Memorial Day weekend, the program will not be live on Sunday night, May 27th. It will be a rebroadcast of an earlier program. It will be a rebroadcast of a program that aired in a prior Memorial Day weekend. And during that broadcast, you will be treated to several full-length, uncut airings of the song that opens and closes this program, America, My Home. And it has a powerful message in it that I hope you'll appreciate and understand as we approach the holiday. It's about America's greatness and where it really lies, and it's about the interdependence of freedom and character. This is a country whose structure, basic structure and constitution was meant for folks with solid internal moral compasses who could be left alone to prosper and to create opportunities for others. So please tune in and treat yourself to America, My Home. And if you want to be one of those folks to carry the message, to help carry the message, I'd appreciate hearing from you. Use the contact feature on the blog to get a hold of me or call in to the program, and I'll be happy to fix you up with what you need. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Dr. George Simon. I'll see you again. Another Christian.
May God bless America and freedom reign across America, my home. From the shorelines to the prairies, carries to the city